My name is Rob Kembach. I'm Product Manager for System Platform. I'm very excited to show you off the 2017 demo system that you can download in the end of the video through a link. This is a cap file that you can restore. If you did not know how to restore cap files, so this is the runtime. So let me show you. It's basically you go in and you open up a session to the IDE, and then once you're in the IDE, you can create a what we call a project or a galaxy. So let's say we create a new one called test, default cap file. At that point, it's going to create a galaxy. That's going to take a couple of seconds. Once that's done, you can go into the SMC. So you can find the SMC in our start menus. So you basically have on the one over there. So the download link, you will get one, and then you can find here. So here's test, and then you can do a restore operation. You pick the file that you had downloaded in the end, and that will give you the demo. Coming back to the demo. The demo itself consists out of a view app, multiple view apps actually. But this one is called view app ML. It's a multi-layout. It starts normally in 1080p. So if you have it normalized, it comes up like this, and let me minimize this for a second. It comes up like this, and then you can maximize to whatever resolution you have. So the first part you land into is the HD layout. So we're using in a new system layouts and screen profiles, and it actually has layouts and screen profiles for from 4K all the way down to mobile. So it basically has three profiles in here, which is mobile, tablet, and dual desktop. And then it also can do tablet, and it can do mobile, of course. So right now we're in HD mode, which is home. Okay, this can be maximized. This can run up to, I'm recording in 2K, but I mean it can run up to 4K, and you can just maximize and use it. So with this particular application, the first section is general demos. And general demos basically will show you a couple of things here. When you get to that, this is the area to explore if you're on a multi-touch device. Drag and drop operations, slide and tab for security purposes, slide. There are button sliders in here, subpoint sliders, keyboards if you want to bring up keyboards. So this is the resizable keyboard that comes with the system, right? So there's a numpad with the system, which is basically that, and that's resizable as well. So if you're on a device, you can do that. You have direct inputs. So if you hit the title bar, the keyboard, you bring up the OS keyboard, which is in this case just the Windows 10 keyboard, but this also has language. So if you want to have language recognition and spelling correction, then use the OS keyboard. The OS keyboard, then we have things like secured write, of course, and in here all the features that you can show. Then gestures. So the gestures that are supported are one finger element operations for things like swipe left, swipe down, and all that. We have finger pane operations, which are these, and then there are multi finger operations like 3 fingers up, left, right, to make sliding panes come in. So everything that is possible with gestures is also possible by keyboard and mouse. So if I want to bring in a sliding pane, you see a little lid here, I can bring it in. I can bring in the menu for navigation. If I want to have the sliding pane on top, I can bring it in. This is view app attribute settings, and here I can bring in the login screen and some alarm information for this specific area in the plant. Or I can do things like SCADA playback, right? So those are the sliding pane menus that you can bring in by mouse operations. You can also navigate by mouse operations. So let's go to the first graphic, AA graphics. This section really shows you all the orchestra graphics that are in the system. These orchestra graphics, of course, you're all very familiar with, and if you're not, they're in the graphic toolbox in the IDE. But we just plug them here all on screens, so you can take a look at them. You can interact with all of them, change their set points, turn them on or off, and then you can go through all of them. So when I set navigation, if you're on a multi-touch device, you just swipe. If you are on, because this is a single asset right now, we're on an asset called AA graphics, which is a object in the galaxy. This represents exactly your object model in the galaxy. That's how navigation works. We'll come back later in more detailed sessions of how you can make navigation work. So you're on an asset, and within the asset I have 10 more graphics, which is indicated here on that lid, and I can swipe through these graphics. So I can go through all these graphics and basically explore what we have built into the system on symbols that come out of the box that you can use for your automation projects. So these are the flashy, glossy ones that are still in use with a lot of our customers, and they work in InTouch OMI, of course, without any exception. So I'm going to go through all these and show you these. Then the next one is really more around asset demos. So one thing that is in this CAD file is a section within the IDE. As you remember, in 2014 and 2014 R2, we published something that we called the Situational Awareness Library. Those were symbols, right? In this release, 2017, with InTouch OMI, and InTouch, of course, don't forget that, but both work seamlessly with this system. But with the new visualization in InTouch OMI, we have a couple of new features introduced that relate to faceplates, for example, and relate to objects, object wizards. So with object wizards, you can build very powerful instances of objects. We give you a library out of the box. So the library that comes out of the box with this system, if we take a quick look at that, when you open this CAD file in the IDE, you will see My Templates, and within assets you have base assets. Then you have an asset library, and that asset library has things like equipment, agitator, compressor, conveyor belt, van, pump, all those things. Instruments, analyzer, level PID, level AI, pressure PID, and then valve assets, things like two-way valves, three-way valves, four-way valves. Not only do we give you the objects out of the box with the wizard configuration, with, for example, the valves here, they have about 3 million options, because those are our SA graphics combined with objects that result in about 3 million options that can be configured. So there's no need for you to program them. You can use and instantiate these instances and use them in your projects. Now they come with a lot of things already integrated into the OMI, so you don't have to, when you create an instance of one of these objects, you can choose something very simple like a conveyor belt. And this conveyor belt doesn't have start-stop, it's very simple, it's just visualization on-off. But if I enable all the options on the conveyor belt, like on the right, and these are examples of each instantiation, if I show you the one on the right, it basically says, oh, well, I can turn this thing on and off. I can put it in manual, hand and manual, auto manual. But I also have an advanced tab where I can see the feedback of the motor current and the actual motor current. I also have a tab for the VSD, so to see the command that's going to go to the frequency drive and the output of the controller. So those things, these symbols go from very they go from very easy to very complex, right? So, but the IO that comes with them also varies because of the object wizards. So they're completely morphable into anything that you want. The second one is interesting is the instruments. So one thing that we added to the demo, or not the demo, when you create a system, every system has a simulation server in it. We actually have in all systems a DAS server that comes out of the box that does simulation. So the new OI servers that were introduced, and you can find videos on this site about the OI servers, but there is one by default deployed, which is a PLC that basically has by default returns proper values to all of the system. So how this is done is very easy. It's an override in the IO assignment table. You just type in whatever address you want here, and it's fictional. You can choose any address at once, but a B is a Boolean, and then there are also for PID loops there are simulations you can type in. But to come to the end is that with this particular faceplate here, if I selected the PID flow, I now not only have a graphical indication, I have a faceplate to interact with it, and I can change things like set point. So if I go in here and change the set point to 40, then this set point will become 40. It changed, and you will see the controller ramping down. So this is a fully PID simulated out of the box with the demo that you get, so you can play with these faceplates and with these symbols and show things and hide things. The other integration it has is attribute visibility settings. So these situational awareness symbols have a lot of visualization options. So I can do things like I can turn the PV off, I can turn set point visible off, tracker visible, label visible, engineering units visible. So if I turn that all off, then you can see this becomes very simplistic here, right? So you can turn all the clutter off if you want a level 2 screen instead of a level 3 display. But that can be done centrally at the HMI or individually for each symbol. You can still override all these overrides individually, or by another option, which is what we call clutter and declutter. So these are the instruments that come out of the box. Then the next one is the valves. Same thing here. You have a faceplate for every type of valve. So if I choose the 4-way valve, I have a 4-way operated valve, or I can choose an analog one here. Whatever you choose, there is a faceplate for them automatically. There is no work for you to be done here to create those. So these valves and instruments you can use in your projects. Then the next one really is essay demo. So this section talks more about all the situational awareness graphics, and we have had videos of this before when we released the symbols. So they were in 2014 R2, and you can go through these and load them and take a look what we mean with situational awareness, what is best practice, what type of meters do we have. So you see all the meters like I had in the screen before for the assets. You have all the meters in here. You have a PNID example of situational awareness if you want to have it. So here basically very brief examples of things like dashboard displays, level 1 displays, level 2 displays, and level 3 displays. One would be more like a typical line overview or unit overview. 2 would be more like or 1 is more like an area, 2 is more like a unit, and or within the area, and then 3 is more like deeper down, typical PNID type of overviews. But you have all these type of graphics that you can use, and that we did, and we talked about those in our thing. The new thing that you can do here is actually a really cool feature. You can use things like historical playback. So I can switch historical playback on. And at that point, the live system disconnects from the runtime system. So now I'm actually completely simulated. So I can go in here and I can play this back. And I can also change the playback speed. All right. So this is actually a complete demo around historical playback and the features that it brings to you. If you want to put specific dates and times in, you can put it in. It will play back any graphic. So if you're on a multi-screen system and you have 3 of these screens up with one view app, then you can play that situation back over all 3 monitors at the same time. when you put it in historical playback mode. Everything else also works. So if I just go to another graphic, then it's playing back this graphic. The rule is that everything that you want to see historically playback, that it basically is historized in the historian. Because if it isn't, then we have no way of playing back the data, right? This indicates to a customer or a operator that you are in playback mode, because if you're not in a higher speed, it might look like you are looking at a live process. So to help people not getting confused that they're in actually historical mode, we have that red bar up there. Switching it off, you switch it off, and now you're back in runtime. So that's historical playback, really powerful feature within 2017 and available in the demo. The other part of the demo is, and I'm seeing is a winery. There are two sections to the winery. One is the infamous or famous, in the mixing you will find the infamous or famous Reactor Demo. The Reactor Demo is here. In this case there are 4. This one is reworked and uses the SA styles. The thing that you can do here is you can demonstrate or look at how we did clutter declutter. So if I switch all these things off and I go back to this graphic, then basically if I zoom in, all right, if I start zooming in, I get details. So that particular feature is something that is in 2017 OMI, and it's also present in InTouch. InTouch does pan and zoom and clutter declutter based on the same mechanisms. So both systems would be able to show that. Storage. So then we go to the Paris demo, which is really more like a Wonderwine demo that we created. So the Wonderwine demo shows the enterprise. It shows a site, which is Paris. It shows a storage location, storage tanks that show more or less details when you get closer or when you zoom in. I have some work left to be done on that one, by the way. So here, when I click on that one, it shows me a storage tank. So really here, this part is really important, where I have one template of a storage tank and I have 24 storage tanks. None of this navigation I had to create or script or build. It was automatically created from the system. So when you create the instances of the storage tank, which is minutes, so when you or in seconds even, so when you create these instances of these storage tanks, you basically get a complete set of devices associated with it that are underneath it, air inlet, blah 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 blah, all those. But it's a model. The system knows exactly that you can navigate through this model. So if I go here, it indicates I'm in an area that has 7 storage tanks. I can go to storage tank 2, 3, 4. So you can slide. You can either swipe, or like me now at this point, using point and click on a mouse. The other part is that I can go in here and select an asset like this valve, and it will bring up the faceplate of the asset. I can place it into manual, auto or manual, and when it's in manual, I can open and close it. There are some simulations on the assets itself. So if you go to storage tank number 1, you can fill the tank, empty the tank. And then basically it's going to do a simulation where you can show things. Unfortunately, I turned all these off, so you can't really see all the information on the valves and stuff like that. So let's bring that back real quick. Alright, so now we have all the information here on the valves. Language switching is part of this. I can show that here. You can switch the languages. There's German and Dutch in there, I think. So if I go to German, then this will switch to German. If I go back to Dutch, this will switch, or English, let's go back to English. So you have faceplates and stuff integrated in here. Interesting is that the application is designed. We work with a design company to design this. So on top, we have this breadcrumb. We have a navigation style here. That's all using and deriving from Google's material design, a lot of it, but infused with operator studies that we did. So we did studies with a UI UX design firm, and they basically helped us designing this UI UX. It's easily brandable. There are only a couple of colors, and they are all linked globally to styles. So if you want a red title bar with your logo, you change this app, and now it looks like your app. Everything is based on a very simplistic style that is easy to change globally without having to go through graphics and change them. All these symbols are defined from global styles. So if you want to change this to red or green, it's one setting in the IDE, and all valves change to red and green. We have a app concept. So the app concept is really where I can click on an app, and it will bring up the app. So I can click on the map, and then I can see the system on a map. At that point, then I can log in, zoom into the system. So this is our mapping application. And within our mapping application, it also does things like context. And we're going to talk about context later, but really the thing that you can do here is you can drill down, and these are orchestra graphics on HTML5. So I can go to storage tank. Right now I'm in storage tank 02, for example, and I see something in storage tank 5. If I click on 5 on the HTML5 canvas, this will redirect the system to go to storage tank number 5. So you go directly to storage tank number 5 and can interact with the devices that are in there. We have Insight in here, Insight on the Trend client in here. We have other apps like Insight in here that you can bring up. It does single sign-on, so it will actually allow you to do single sign-on and bring up Insight. So Insight is of course a HTML5 web portal that's using our single sign-on services. So I can now go into, for example, we talked about mixing before. I can go into mixing, and I can look at the data for mixing out of a trend perspective, right? So this is our Insight client, which can get data from Azure, from the cloud, with Wonderware Online, or it can work like it works here on-prem. That on-prem part is using the historian data that is in the system. The really strong feature here is the contextualization that you don't have to program, and you can see examples of that here. Where I say I want to go to a trend, then it looks at the storage tank automatically and sees that there are 3 variables in the storage tank, which is basically a pressure, a level, and a temperature. If I want to see a trend of that, I go to Insight, and it loads the HTML5 app, and it will show me the trends for that. If I want to reformat my screen and want to make these apps bigger, I can do that as well. I can close that particular one, and I can make this storage tank bigger. If I want to see where this storage tank is on the map, I can click on the map and bring up the location of the storage tank. So the app menu that you see there on the right is always in context. So when it shows information, it always means like, show me the location of the asset, show me the alarms of the asset, show me the trend information associated with the asset. Using InTouch OMI, there is no scripting required of making this work. If I make another storage tank, I don't need to go back to the map application and do something. I don't need to go back to the Insight application and do something to it, or the historian. That's all automatically configured for you. You drop another one in, and you get this functionality, including the navigation. And that's really what this demo is about, showing the ease of how these applications are built and how powerful they are in that aspect. I'm going to show you quickly, maybe spin up another instance here, and then show you some of the screen things that I can do. So you can have multiple instances running if you want to play with this. So it shows our website when it boots. What it can do is that if I switch to, for example, tablet, then it goes to a smaller form factor, right? So this is tablet, and this can also be resized. So if you bring this up in a tablet, I have my profile set to normal, and then they come always up in the resolution that they were designed for. You can also set them to maximize, so they will always maximize to the maximum real estate of the screen available. In this case, I have set them to normal, so you can, on a desktop, you can demonstrate these type of features. That's fine. This is very powerful because our layout systems are very flexible, right? So within a layout system, you want to define things that are static and do not resize upon resizing of the application. And these are things like title bars, menu bars, slide-in menus, and things like that. Those you don't want to change when you change form factor. The orchestral graphics are vector-based. It doesn't matter. They re-render anyway, anyhow, and you can zoom in if you want to see more or less information, right? So you have pan and zoom and clutter and declutter, so you can use all kinds of functionality creating a tablet application. So that's what this demonstrates. We also have a phone application here, so you can play around with the phone. The phone typically would use something more, let's say, powerful. It can do the desktop can do that too, but the phone can do like a let me close this app off for a minute here, because that one is, yeah, all right. So because otherwise we have something in the background all the time, and that's not that handy. All right, give me a second. Okay, so the phone really, like, yeah, you can show a custom graphic on here, but really the usefulness of the phone is more of a list type of view. So I can click on this list view, and then I get a symbol list of all the tanks, and I can see what the pressures are in the tanks and stuff like that, temperatures. If I want to see the alarms in a list, it will show me the alarm states of all the things. And if I want to go to that specific area, I can click on that, and it will take me to that area. Or I basically go back to my tank overview here, and if I want to go to storage tank 1, I just can click on it, and it takes me to storage tank 1. Here I can still interact with faceplates, right? So if I can still set something to manual, just like I could before, if I'm logged in. And then basically after you log in, you can do operations like you did before. So let's switch back to desktop. So that's all built in. Dual desktop is built in as well. Then it runs 2. Our screen profiles and view apps support up to 50 monitors and up to 4K resolution. So this is, I'm recording this all in 2K, of course, in this case, because a lot of people might not have 4K, and I don't want to exclude half of the world of not being able to see anything. So here in the IDE, you get a bunch of stuff, and let me close these panes, the IO assignment panes here. You get a toolbox. This is what you get with default, is what you get with a default Galaxy. My templates is what you get with the demo. In the graphic toolbox, same thing. Default content is all the stuff that we ship out of the box, and my content is basically the content that is associated with the demo. So if you want to take pieces out and use in your projects, you can. There are different view apps on here, and this is where I'm going to close off in a second too, because I'm running a long time, and I'm sure that you guys have all something to do today. So InTouch, or My Control Room, is a 3-monitor application. Desktop HD is a single HD. Multi-layout is the one that we just looked at. I have a phone one. We have a tablet one. This is the default view app that comes with the system, which doesn't have all the demo stuff in it. It's stripped out. And then there's a simple and a simplest view app example that shows how the navigation works, because these are fairly complex ones that we have built, and then these are more simple ones where you can open them up and see and try to get a better understanding of how we build these applications. And then there is the dual desktop one. So there are a bunch of view apps that you get out of the box. There is a bunch of layouts and screen profiles that are there to build applications. And if you want to use those in your project, feel free to use them. Same here with all the screen profiles that are in this system. Faceplates and assets. If you want to export just the assets and use them in your projects, feel free to use them. There are some of the applications that will come online in a later stage. So after you have deployed an application like this, you can click here in the application manager on the folder. There is a, from the controls that are in this system, and I'm going to close with that, from the controls that are within this system, they will be, a lot of them are in a testing phase, and that's why this is a demo app. So the applications here, you will find InTouch All My Apps. These are the ones that we officially ship, and then these are the ones that I delivered with this demo that are not completely official yet, but are in beta. So this list, and you can also see that in the folder here, and I have to provide you this information so for yourself you can check later. If this is the View App directory, so the View App directory has everything in it. It's a self-containing View application, and then within this you have these controls, and you can select one. And there's a version info.txt. So within here you can see who wrote it and if it was QA'd or not. Right. So title bar, for example, has QA status no, and it was published 6/11. I will issue you updates, and we'll have new files going forward. So this is not the last demo cap file that you get. This is one of them, and this one will be posted at the end of this video. That particular link, I will replace the content at some point with a new one. So we'll just keep on giving you rolling updates, or I just give you probably a address where you can go to and fetch the latest. All right. Thank you very much for looking into this. And this is, I know it's a half an hour of your time, but I would have. I don't think I can do it any faster with all the stuff that is in here, but I try to. If you have any specific questions, feel free to email me, rob.kambach@schneiderelectric.com or at wonderware.com. Both work. You can drop me a line, ask me a question. If you have any recommendations, I will be more than willing to listen to that and get your input. And thank you very much for attending this video, and there will be more shortly about all the individual features. Thank you.